Hello everyone. If I am audible, can someone please just give a little bit of thumbs up so that I don't feel that, I'm just talking and I'm not audible at all? Okay, so I have Alok sir here and he says continue. So I think I'm audible to everyone. So very briefly, I would just want to introduce myself and my name is Vanshika Khurana and I am a counselor at Fitzoh. Along with that, I've been studying psychology and I'm a budding psychologist, fortunately. And I'm an NLP practitioner and a clinical hypnotherapist, and I've been working with very different teams like Delhi Response COVID team, the Step 1 team, and have been assisting the Delhi government with the contribution of ICMR in counseling students as well as COVID patients and also the families of the COVID patients also, and it was all going through a tele-counseling thing. So I would first like to thank Fitzoh app for having me here and addressing something which is very important, that is mental health. To be very specific, stress management. So, we might be hearing of these terms stress management everywhere in our life, but unfortunately, we don't take out time to actually recognize that how important it is for us to see what all we are going through and to understand that we have to have some time for our own selves, and we have to see ourselves like a very kind human and be nice to yourself as well. So that is what today's all live session is about. We're going to talk about a brief description of what stress is, then what is stress management, how stress management can help an individual, and we'll be then having some question answer sessions. So in case if anybody has any questions, they can let us know in the comment section here. Okay, so very history of stress, where is it coming from, is basically, when we all were like, when humans were barbaric enough and we used to live in jungles, we had this fight or flight response. So, for our survival mode to remain into the society and to just survive, we had to hunt, and living in jungles with other beings, sharing space with animals and other living organisms was something that was a part of our lives. So every human had to be very cautious and always in an attacking mode at that time. So at that point of time, a survival mode was something like a fight or flight response. So we had to fight back for our own survival. We had to fight back if we want to be present on the very this earth, and at that point it was required. However, now we have to question ourselves that is it that the stress that we undergo or the trigger that we have of that fight or flight response. For example, if you don't know the answer in maybe in an exam, you immediately start overthinking and you have stress all around. So is it required? Is it something that needs to be taken with so much tension? That is something that we have to question ourselves, and that is from where biologically we are having the response to which. So basically, small issues in our lives helps us to develop these responses. Now we'll move further and we'll discuss a little bit about our triggering points and basically what stress is. So people say that stress is outwards. So maybe it's a circumstance that can be stressful. Maybe it is someone else's behavior that can be stressful to you. However, the research shows the other way around, and stress is something that comes inwards. So it's our response to a particular situation and not a situation. So it's not that a situation is stressful, but it's always our reaction to it, our response to it, that is stressful. And so maybe an exam can be stressful to me as my response towards it is that in that way. However, it might be not stressful for somebody else. So maybe you giving your exam, you feel that you are prepared for it, so you are not tensed or you are not stressful about it. So it's not that it comes with the circumstance, but it is something that comes inward. So it's our response and reaction to it. So, the first step towards stress management is very simple, that you have to acknowledge that the ball is in your court, and whatever you want your life to shape like, it's all in your hands, and your reactions build up stress. So, try to be little mindful about your reactions towards things. Okay. And yeah, so psychological stress was basically a term that was coined by Dr. Hans. So, Dr. Hans was a doctor who was studying physics in one of his classes, and he realized that how in physics we use stress, that is to build. So, when we pressurize a metal, the metal gets bent, and that is from where he concluded that even psychologically, humans have their own stressors, and even our mind can be stressed out. So maybe you can't see the tangible part of the bent area in our brains, but we definitely do have our own stressors. So thanks to Dr. Hans for having such a wonderful research done, and for recognizing that human minds go stresses, they do have a lot of stressors, and it's not just something that is visibly like tangible kind of thing, but it is something that has been present in all of us since maybe since we are a child or something. Yeah. So moving further. Okay, so when we talk about a very interesting and informative bit about stress is that when we talk about stress, automatically we assume that stress is something negative, and we always have to find ways to deal with it. However, it's not true. Stress can be positive as well. So there is a term that we use, that is eustress. Eustress is kind of a term that says that stress is not always negative, it is positive as well. Now, you might be asking that what kind of stresses can be positive stresses? Well, there can be. So, okay, so for example, if you have a presentation to give tomorrow, for example, I have to go live today and I am not ready with my content. So, if there is no stress, I will not make any effort to build up my content, or any effort to prepare for my exams, or any effort for that matter for anything. So stress basically sometimes keeps us functional. It helps us to move in the society. It helps us to realize that we have some social boundaries and we have to follow them. So it's not always that a stress is bad stress only. However, it can be good stress only. So now the question arises that when do we know that the stress is eustress, or is it being distress? So if you take out some time, you have to realize that there are three major symptoms of stresses. So your body will always tell you whether you are in eustress position or if you are in a distress position. All you have to do is just be a little mindful and focus on your own body, and see what your body is trying to say. So okay, let's take an example of number one, that is the physical symptoms. So whenever you find that you are not in eustress and the stress is going too much, you will have some physical effects on your body. So these physical effects can be, let's take an example. Someone might get a lot of indigestion issues. So you might not be feeling well. You might feel that your stomach is aching. You might feel that your digestion system is not working properly. Or in physical symptoms, there can be headaches. A lot of people go through headaches when they are stressed, and that is something that you have to be mindful for. You have to know what are your symptoms of entering into a distress kind of position. Number two comes behavioral. The behavioral symptoms are, again, it can be very different for everyone. So okay, so if I talk about my personal symptoms, what happens with me if I am stressed, I tend to forget important information. So if I have an assignment to give tomorrow and I am working, then with the workings I will forget the important bits that I have to mark in the assignment. I'll forget the day when I have to submit it. I will forget the very important events of that particular job or that particular task. For that matter, sometimes we even miss out on our basic needs. For example, you might be stressed with your work, you forget to eat. So that is the behavioral thing that comes with stress. So first we discussed about the physical thing, then we discussed about the behavioral symptom, and third is our emotional symptoms. Very important. And with a research shows that 89% of people gets angry and all grumpy when they have stressed. However, there are other symptoms too. People might want to cry, people might want to just sit back and have their own time. So we all go through different emotions. So you have to identify what goes well with you. So if you think that you have and it's not necessary always that you go through like all three symptoms. Sometimes it is possible that you might have one single symptom, sometimes it is possible that you have a combination of two, and sometimes all three can be there. So you have to figure it out of these three, which one is your symptom. And if you feel that these symptoms are occurring regularly, please do seek some therapy for it, or do pay little attention towards yourself. Right. So the next thing that we're going to discuss about is something that we all are here for. A very important topic: how to manage this stress. So now we know that this is not our eustress. So this is not a positive stress, and we have physical symptoms or emotional or any behavioral symptom in ourselves. How do we manage those stresses? So there was this very beautiful line that I read in an article while I was studying I think I was in my grad that time, and I still have it written somewhere. So it says, if you don't take out time for your stress management, it will cost you more time in long run. And it definitely does. So, if you're not tackling your stress right from the start, then in the end, or maybe in somewhere in the long run, you might get difficulty dealing with it. And of course, if something gets piled up, then in that scenario, it takes time to get resolved or be back. So it's necessary that you give utmost importance to yourself right from the beginning, and start to pay little attention towards your stress as well. Right. So the first stress management technique is something that is known as stress journal. Now we'll get into how do we make a stress journal, and what are the basic things that are required in a stress journal. So you might want to write it out, or you can have maybe you can have an Excel sheet ready and divide the Excel sheet in some columns and rows and name them. So the first thing that you do is that you rate it numerically. How much stressed are you? So on a scale of 1 to 10, I may want to do it regularly. I feel that I want to keep a check on myself every day. How much stressed am I? Or on the other hand, you might feel that, you want to keep a check on yourself on a weekly basis. So that's your choice. How much time do you want to get into? And so you rate it numerically. So for example, let's take my example for that matter. How much stressed am I at currently, particular point of time, like now? So I might rate myself a 7 or an 8, which is a pretty high score. Maybe that's because of the live, or like the audience right now. So maybe it's because of that. But it's important that you give a numerical value. It becomes easy to measure. Like, I can identify now, is it high, is it low, am I normally like this only? So the first step that you do in your stress management stress journal technique is that you give yourself a numerical value. How much stressed are you? Rate yourself from 1 to 10 and see where you lie. Number 2 is that you identify the source. Like I just mentioned, that maybe I'm stressed because of the live video, right? And you have to identify the source. Once you know the stressor, you can definitely do wonders. That comes the third step, that you have to prepare for the stressor. So like I said, that the live video can be stressful for me. So what do I do to avoid this stress? I prepare. That's simple, right? So this happens when you actually write it out. You will come to know about the stressors that you deal on a very daily basis, and you will try to prepare for it. Once you try to prepare for it, it will not be that all of your stress will just go, but your stressors will be so your list will be shortened. So if you have 20 stressors in a week, then if you prepare for it, then it automatically, the number will come down to 15, then slowly to 10, then 5, and that goes on. So we discussed 3 particular steps in the stress journal. First is that you first is that you rate it numerically. Second is that you identify the source, the stressor, and third is that you prepare for it. That's the point of the stress journal, and if you maintain it regularly, you can keep a check on your own self and your own mental health also, that where is it going, and do you really need therapy, or do you think you can take care of the stressors on your own? So that's comes the check-in point. After this, I have another very wonderful technique. It's very simple, and all you have to do is just remember three M's. Okay. So we'll discuss these M's one by one. So the first M is that you move. Whenever you feel that you are stressed out, you can move. Movement comes with the physical body. You can exercise, you can do yoga, you can go for a jog, go for a run, walk, for instance, maybe dance it out, anything that you feel is comfortable to you. But it has to do a movement in your muscles, a movement in your physical body. Number two comes that you meet. That is the second M. You meet someone, and currently the pandemic is here. Hopefully everything is fine now, but still, if you don't think that it's a nice choice to meet someone at this particular time, you can go for a virtual meet as well. But you can basically build an emotional connection with someone. Not necessary that it has to be some living person only. It can be any living organism. For instance, it can be your pet, it can be a cat, a dog, for that matter. Even plants can help at that time. All you have to do is engage yourself emotionally. The third M that is there is that you have to make something. You can make you can either bake something, make something like in the kitchen, use the ingredients, make something, be creative. You can, do something with the art. You can do something with the, like anything, whatever you find that you are that kind of a person. You can create something with art. You can create something with the ingredients in the kitchen. You can do pottery for that matter, and anything that gives you, gives you a source of entertainment and that helps you to be creative. So that is a very cathartic procedure if you do that. So these three M's, they particularly honestly help me a lot. What I do is that so the combinations can be different for everyone, right? So if I am somewhere, I am rating myself sometimes maybe 2 or 3 on my stress levels, I particularly choose to make something. If my stress level is somewhere between 5 to 7 for that matter, I choose to meet someone. And if it goes 7 and above that, I choose to move my body. That is how it works for me. It can be different for you. So figure it out how these combinations go well for you, and that will really work well if you just pay little attention towards yourself and towards your stressors. Moving further and discussing about the techniques, a very important thing I forgot to mention initially. This is something that has to be done on a very level one. So, if you can change the situation, that works really well. However, if you cannot change the situation, change the reaction towards it. So that comes with acceptance. That is a very important third technique, that you have to accept situations which you cannot change. For instance, I have an exam tomorrow. I cannot change the situation. I can't really, think that my exam will not happen, or can I do something, just say, we cannot sometimes, get rid of the stressful event. That has to happen. We cannot change our environment. For example, if we don't like an individual and we find ourselves stressful whenever he is around, we cannot always sideline the individual, but we can change our reaction towards it. So you accept it, that you don't always have the authority to change the situation, but we can have the authority over our own emotions, over our own behavior, and we can change our reaction towards it. That works really well, not with the stresses, but people who have overthinking habits, people who undergo anxiety, this helps them even a lot. So you have to accept what you cannot change, and if you can change the situation, that goes really well. Like you can alter the situation, or you can add or subtract something, that is really perfect. But if you cannot, then you have to accept it, that you cannot change it. Now, there are many other techniques that can help an individual. maybe, okay, so if anybody is aware of it, then there are breathing exercises also that helps us a lot. Breathing exercises calms our breathing down, and it immediately builds a peaceful scenario in our own situation and in our own mind. So there are multiple breathing techniques that goes. We cannot discuss it over here, as for every individual the breathing technique is different. So for someone maybe a count of 7, 8 and 12 goes well. For someone a count of 4, 8 and 10 goes well. So the numbers change, but slow breathing is the key to it, that you have to give yourself some time, breathe slowly, visualize something good, and that is where the breathing techniques goes. And yeah, that's one another fourth technique that we just discussed. Other than that, a very important caution or note that I would want to address here is that the live session that we are talking about is, like I'm giving you, helping you with the techniques that can help. However, if these techniques are not helping you out in that scenario, please do visit a therapist, and don't panic over it. It's not always that everything goes well with every other individual. So it is very different. Human mind is very complex, and with our emotions, with our behavior, with our personality, everything goes different. So it's not necessary that what is working for me might work for you as well. That goes individually. And don't get stressed about the stress, and seek therapy in case if you think that these are not helping you, as this is nowhere an alternative or a substitute to a therapeutic session. Okay, so I think these are enough techniques. If you really practice them, you will come to know that it does help a lot. And Fitzoh is the app that I think has trained me pretty well for the stress management things. So, very beautifully, the trainer organized the scenario and organized everything into multiple aspects. So, we have different 4 domains where Fitzoh works, and everything is very beautifully done, and it is very client specific. So each counselor is trained in a very professional manner and will work according to your personal space, will work according to what you want in your life, will work according to your goals. So at no point of time any counselor will be helping you with the generic goals that are there, but will help you with a very client focused techniques, and will help you with very client focused things. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, you can definitely write in the comment section. By that time, I'll just let you know that how Fitzoh works. So it helps you in actually gaining, okay, so it helps you with your entire health. Maybe it can be physical health, it can be your mental health. It's basically a holistic healing approach, and their professionals work really well. The nutritionists are there, the dietitians are there, and there are mental health counselors also. So if you want to focus on your holistic healing, wherein you want to take care of your physical health as well as your mental health, you should definitely download the Fitzoh app now, and get very amazing responses from the team there. And I'm sure once you are on that app, you will never ever never ever think to switch from there at any point of time, and it does help a lot. So yeah, you can download the Fitzoh app now. It is available on iOS and your Google apps as well. And other than that, if you have any other question about stress management, you can always write in the comment section, or you can ask the Fitzoh team to arrange another session with different questions, or with any other thing that you would want to be addressed with. So I think there are no questions coming up. Okay, so we'll give another minute. If anybody has anything to ask, then you may. And those who joined late, I would just like to again tell you, my name is Vanshika Khurana, and I'm a counselor at Fitzoh. And I think we are at the end of the session today, and we learned few techniques. That is the stress journal. Then comes that you have to accept things. Then are the three M's that are there, and finally you have breathing techniques that goes for every person differently, right? So I think we can now end the session. Thank you, Alok sir, for the acknowledgement. Okay, bye bye. See you on the app soon.